One more concept you need to be aware of is deduction guides. Deduction guides can be implicit or explicit, meaning if you don't provide a deduction guide, the compiler deduces template arguments directly from the constructor's parameter types. But if you do provide a custom guide, then it asks the compiler to override the default behavior. So basically, think of deduction guides as rules that you are specifying, that you have to specify in order for the compiler to behave differently, right? Let's look at an example so that it's more clearer, right? I have a really simple class here called person. It's templated. It has a constructor that takes in an argument and saves it off in a member here called name, m underscore name, which is private. It exposes a function called print, and if you look closely, all it does is it's printing the type of this member here, right, which is m underscore name. And as we saw earlier, type ID can come in really handy when you want to know the type of your objects. So in main here, I created the person object, provided an argument in its constructor, and I called print on it, right? Let's check out the behavior. So type of div is pkc. Now what is pkc? pkc stands for pointer to a constant character, right? This is something that the compiler generates. It's called mangled naming. You can look it up. Every primitive type or even user defined, right, has this naming that gets generated by the compiler. So in this case, our type is a const char pointer. Now this is where deduction guides can come in really handy. Now let's say the developer wants more control over the way the templated arguments are deducted here, right? What he can do is specify a custom deduction rule which will be used by the compiler. So right now the compiler is looking at this argument as a const char pointer, right? Let's say the developer does not like that. So what he can do is he can provide a custom deduction rule, and the syntax looks like this: const char pointer, and he wants it to look like, let's say, a standard string, right? Now if we run this, you will see that type of div is now a string, right? Which means he, by providing this custom guide, the compiler was basically forced to look at the constructor argument as a standard string instead of a const char pointer, right? So deduction guides basically handle cases where you need finer control over the template argument deduction. This is just something that you need to be aware of when you're using class template argument deduction.